What's up, survivors, seraphites, and theater kids? Welcome back to Fantasy Files Reacts, the podcast within a podcast where we talk about movies, shows, and video games. I'm your host this week, joined by I'm your host this week, Spencer, joined by Nick Henderson from the 4-Player Podcast and the Dexter Daily, and we are live today to talk about The Last of Us Season 2, Episodes 3 and 4 in preparation for episode 5 tonight. All of our links, they're in the description, including Nick's, so you can go check out his podcast where he talks about video games with his friends. And also, if you're into Dexter, he writes articles for the Dexter Daily, so check out that as we ramp up for Resurrection. Dexter Resurrection is coming soon. July
11th. It's official.
Yes.
Fucking official, man. That's literally 2 months from today.
I know. Oh my god. It's so crazy. I thought it was coming in June, so I was a little disappointed to see July.
They kept saying summer, and I was like, that could literally mean any time between June and August, and considering they're still filming, I was like, yeah. I feel like June's maybe pushing it.
Sure.
But even honestly, I feel like even July is maybe kind of pushing it. So knowing that it's not like, when you know they say summer, it means they could like literally like push the definition of summer to the absolute limit and be like, it's coming
August 29th,
August 30th or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like to know that it's not the very tail end of August is super exciting. So
yeah. Have we gotten other Dexter seasons in the summer? I feel like they're usually in the fall, right? Am I totally wrong?
No, I mean, like, it's kind of been all over the place a little bit because typically they used to be in the like October, November timeframe. And then the final season, like season 8 of the original series, debuted on my birthday, which is the only reason I remember this, which is in June, end of June. So it's not unheard of. And New Blood was a November release, but Original Sin was a December, I think, was it? So yeah, it's a little bit all over the place, but June is not completely unheard of.
Okay, cool. We got Gabe in the chat, our other co-host. I think Hello. He's either at work or coming home from work or something, but he had to work today, unfortunately. And then I'm sure he's got
Mother's Day.
I know, isn't that shitty? I have to go get vape stuff after this, and I was thinking, man, can you imagine having to work at a vape store on Mother's Day? Like that would suck.
There's probably a lot of places that suck to work on Mother's Day.
Yeah, for sure.
I remember, or any holiday, or any day, actually. So,
or any day. I was at Goodwill yesterday. I was running around to a bunch of thrift stores because I got to get some new pants and stuff. But I was at Goodwill specifically at one point yesterday, and I used to work there when I was like 22, 21, 22. And I remember they made us work like every single holiday. Like I think there was people working there on Christmas. Like I think it was open on Christmas, and they might have changed it since then. Like I'm sure they've gone through like a big.
That's pretty unheard of.
Yeah, they've gone through like a big restructuring. But I remember being called in like specifically on holidays where I was like, I should not be working today. Like Thanksgiving was one of them. Yeah. I remember, they made us work all sorts of crazy days. I was working there. This will tell you when I worked there. It was the year that Seattle won the Super Bowl.
That actually doesn't tell me anything because I have no clue when that was.
No clue when it was.
I didn't even know Seattle won the Super Bowl. What is the Super Bowl?
Are you serious? You didn't know Seattle won the Super Bowl?
Dude, I couldn't tell you. I don't think I could tell you. I know the Kansas City Chiefs have won the Super Bowl twice. That is right. Is it twice?
I don't know. I'm not a football fan, but I know Seattle won the Super Bowl.
You're only saying it not because you know football, but because you lived in Seattle.
Because I lived in Seattle, right?
Okay. Yeah, that makes way more sense. That makes more sense. I was like, I don't know shit about football. I'm not gonna lie. I am clueless when it comes to football. So yeah.
That's funny. I thought you were a football guy, but maybe that's only because you do like fantasy critic, but that's like video games, but I associate that with like fantasy football.
Yeah.
Um,
Jack
that's
shit
funny.
about football. If you ever wanted
That's
to get
awesome.
together to talk about football, I would decline.
Right. Yeah. No thanks.
That's just honest
Yeah.
here.
But yeah, we've got a lot of Dexter news lately. There's been all
Mm-hmm.
sorts of leaks and stuff, and it's getting to the point where I'm like, I need to stop like paying attention to this stuff because I think things are about to start like getting spoiled. But I tell you, Nick, even with everything that's come out in the past couple weeks, we've gotten a trailer, we've gotten
A
like
teaser.
all a teaser, yeah, we've gotten all
Eh.
sorts of like pictures and clips and all this stuff that's leaking. I still have
We
no goddamn idea what this series is going to be about.
Yeah, well,
I
they
have
released.
no idea what this season's
I
about.
can tell you right now, if you go look at the YouTube video or the YouTube the teaser trailer on YouTube, and you look in the description, there is a synopsis of the season or of the series.
Oh,
It doesn't like give specifics, but it
yeah.
like does a decent enough job of like kind of giving you the foundation of like what the series actually is going to be. Um,
Okay. Does it tell
uh,
in the description, does it tell you that he escaped?
uh, kind of.
Cuz like how
It kind of glances or grazes right over that.
right.
I could read it to you right now if you'd like.
No, I don't want to know. I don't want to
Okay,
know.
okay.
I want to go in as blind as I can, which I mean, I'm probably going to get spoiled on shit, but
There's probably going to
I'm
be
trying.
it's the theory right now because they're doing a panel at Comic-Con in I think Brazil at the end of the month, and I think the rumor on the 31st, which I think the rumor is that's where we'll get the first actual trailer
Right.
for
Yeah.
the show. So
Okay. Yeah, um I saw clips of Michael C. Hall Dexter with Lady Vengeance.
mhm.
And he's like kind of pulling her from a car and he's like talking
Yeah.
to her. I'm like, having watched Dexter for so long, I know exactly what kind of scene this is where he's like, you're being obvious. Come with me. Like
Yeah.
that kind of scene. I'm like, I know exactly like what he's saying to her right now. Um,
It's going to be
and
interesting.
I'm so excited. I'm so
Yeah.
excited. Oh, we got Dexter back, baby.
And
And
season 2 Original Sin.
did we get a trailer for that?
No trailer. But
Oh,
they did renew it for. I mean,
for
they
season
renewed
two.
it, and there's talk right now that they're getting the writers' room together, so it's about to start pre-production. So
Oh, let's
they're like,
go.
by the time Resurrection ends, there's probably already going to be like we'll have a pretty firm idea of when
Yeah.
Original Sin is coming and that kind of thing. So
Oh man, could you imagine just like every 6 months, like clockwork, just getting like
dude,
original sin, resurrection, original sin, resurrection, like
I think that is the plan. like
ooh.
I think that is the goal here because like they're treating it, they're trying to be like a well-oiled machine here.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if filming for season 2 starts before Resurrection even ends.
And
So we'll see. We'll see.
all I can say is make that money. I'll throw it at him. Just keep making
Yeah.
shows. I'll
As the
watch
writing,
them.
as long as it's good, I'm happy. So I'll
Nick,
keep
I don't
watching.
even care if it's good.
That's
I'll
true.
still watch
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm, Dexter's super nerd over here. I'll watch it
Yeah.
even if it starts to suck. But like,
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna. Clyde Phillips is.
He has a great deal of respect for that series. It's his baby.
Sometimes the
I
man makes me roll my eyes when I hear him talk, but like at the same
yeah.
time, I was like, you also are responsible for some of the best aspects of the show, and when your name is attached to it, it tends to be good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's where I'm at.
I don't know if I like him as a person.
He's such a mouthpiece for corporate bullshit. Like when you hear him talk, like it made me roll my eyes so bad. So I know we need to get back to The Last of Us, but like
No, you're good.
there was a conversation. Yeah, like somebody asked him in an interview like how they got how Resurrection came to be or whatever, and he told me that it was Michael C. Hall. He reached out to me and said that he's like, how could we make this happen? I don't think I'm done with the character. And I was like, that's bullshit. That is so bullshit. Michael C. Hall was ready to be done.
Yeah.
You you didn't want it to end on a quote unquote sour note because people were
Right.
upset about the end of New Blood or whatever. You
Right.
came to him and he was like, "Show me the money."
Yep.
And you showed him the money, and he's back, and that's totally fine because Michael
That's
C. Hall, even when he's doing things for the money, he does them well. So
right. Yeah.
I don't give a shit. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. The thing that pissed me off with him was the whole with the ending of New Blood. He was like, "Well, you know, I had like this troubled childhood with my dad and I wanted that to like come through on screen." I'm like, "Why are you putting your own dad issues into this series that we all love?"
I mean, even if that were the case, it's like you could just say like that's just a weird way to say it. You know what I mean? Because like a lot of writers are influenced by their own personal experiences. It's just like just like you were intrigued by the father-son relationship and how it would unfold or whatever, and like that's all you really need to say.
Right.
I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, he's a weird guy. I
was like, I don't think your dad was a serial killer. You know
right? I mean? Yeah.
Like if that was the case, then I would totally understand you saying that part.
Right. Yeah.
But, I don't know. Otherwise, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't need to say that. Whatever.
Right.
Whatever.
Well, you know who doesn't have a mother is Dexter. Happy Mother's Day, everybody.
I was like, where is he going with this? I was, since we are here to talk about The Last of Us, you could say this is actually a fortuitous episode or 2 episodes to be talking about.
Yeah.
Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Especially episode 4. So.
Yeah, that is true. But yeah, it's kind of odd to be doing a live stream on Mother's Day. So hopefully people are watching this in between hanging out with their mom and maybe doing other things. Yeah, or watching it with your mom. Don't do it instead of, right?
Because I'm sure this is the exactly what mothers want to be doing on Mother's Day.
I know.
Watching nerds talk about nerd shit.
I know, yeah. But yeah, hello all the moms, and hope everybody is treating their mothers well today. Every day really, but especially today.
For sure.
Let's talk about The Last of Us. So we had kind of thought that episode 3 was going to be a very reflective and retrospective episode, and just kind of going into our general thoughts on these two. And it kind of was, but also like I thought it was where we were going to get our flashbacks, like some of our like core flashbacks. And as I was watching the episode, I realized that they probably wouldn't want to do that in this episode because we didn't even see his body really.
Yeah, and we've gone 2 episodes now without Joel's presence at all. And honestly, I think that's probably the smart thing to do because it's gonna it means when we do finally get the flashback, which is coming,
right?
It'll feel more impactful. I think I think this was a smart move.
Yeah, same
in the grand scheme of things. And actually, and I don't know, this is just, I know we're I'm jumping ahead a little bit just in terms of like looking forward to what's coming, because we have, after tonight's episode, we have, where is this, 5? So we have 3 episodes left, so only 2 episodes to go. I wouldn't be surprised if they turn, because you know how like the first season had a couple episodes that were kind of like standout moment. They had had Bill's Town, which was a whole episode. They had the Left Behind, Riley's story being a whole episode, or whatever. And we haven't really had that for this season yet. And I can't help but feel like it's coming. I wouldn't be surprised at all if episode 5 is day 2, episode 6 is the flashback to the museum. I don't know if that's the whole episode, or I mean, I feel like they could easily turn that flashback into a whole episode, and that would be awesome. And then episode 7 be day 3 in Seattle.
Right.
So that's my general kind of theory as to like how they're laying it out. Going forward.
Yeah, that's a good idea there. I honestly forgot about it only being 7 episodes. That's crazy. I think that's such a mistake. Like they must have a reason for doing it, but
I wouldn't be surprised if that last episode though was like 2 hours long.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Which, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the next couple episodes are longer than the first half, but we'll see. Maybe we'll get a better idea of what that looks like tonight. But I do think that tonight's episode is going to be called Day 2.
Yeah.
Because that,
Yeah.
So and also just kind of since we're talking general thoughts here, I actually decided to restart the game. So I'm actively playing the game. I'm in day 1, Seattle day 1 right now. So I'm not super far. I'm like 4 hours into it. But I was playing that just before we jumped on this call. So
cool.
It's interesting to like be playing the game again with the show happening simultaneously, because it just makes all the differences very obvious. Which is, it's just a cool exercise. And I've said it before, I think most of the changes they've made ultimately all the changes they've made so far, I think, have been really smart. And even if they don't necessarily feel smart right away, like I feel like when you look back on it, you're like, okay, that was pretty good. I see why they did this or did that. But we'll get into some of those differences. I think especially I think episode 4 is maybe the episode where some of the differences are the most glaring.
I didn't like the changes. I'm so far I've been okay with changes. But we'll get to it. But the end of episode 4 I did not like. But yeah, I'm playing the game as well. Are you playing on PC?
No, I'm playing. I actually bought the remastered on PS5 a couple. Like back when it came out. I don't remember when they dropped. A traitor? It's
a traitor to the PC master race.
Oh my god! I mean, maybe I play like 90% of the stuff on PC these days, but like Sony first party, I tend to stick to PlayStation. So. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I guess it is like a first-party PlayStation game.
It fucking is, bro. It's a PlayStation game. It is a PlayStation-ass game. I'm super happy that it's available on PC and that more people can play and experience it. But it is a PlayStation game through and through.
It needs to go on sale.
I'm playing with that DualSense controller, baby.
Yeah, I mean you can do that on PC.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah, I need to get it on PC because I really want to play it there. And my Steam is like not working for me right now. I don't know what is going on. I was trying to check how much it was, but I'm sure it's full price.
Oh, it's probably full price, especially right now.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm at the part I got through the museum, and I'm where Ellie kind of breaks out on her own. And like hunting the WLF and everything. So I probably need to keep playing because I'm probably just past where episode 4 ends, I guess, right? Because where episode 4 ends in the game, does that go directly into the museum before she goes out on her own?
I actually don't remember. It's been a while since I've played the game. Sure. I don't remember the placement of the flashback specifically. But episode 4 of the show corresponds with the end of day 1, and then she breaks out and goes off on her own on day 2. So that would correspond with where we are in the show.
Right. Okay, cool. So yeah, I think do you think we get a flashback in the next episode?
I think the flashback will come in episode 6.
Okay.
They got a lot of ground to cover with what's happening in tonight's episode, especially if they're kind of keeping on track with an episode being a whole day in the game. And they're also, we'll talk about this too, they're doing something pretty significant in tonight's episode that doesn't really have anything to do with the game explicitly, but it has to do with kind of like creating parity between like the world in the game and the world in the show. They haven't done yet, which you talk about it in your notes. So you actually do know what I'm talking. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We'll talk about it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, because they're the flashback that I'm thinking of that we need to get is when she goes to Joel's porch, and they actually have a talk. Remind me if I'm misremembering, but in episode 3, she talks to the counselor and she's like, "Yep, that's the last thing I said to him." But in the game, we do see that she like walks past his house, but then she goes back, right?
In the game, you don't get that specific flashback to what the conversation they had on the porch until much later. In
Oh,
fact,
okay.
but I think she does. When she's talking to Dina early on in the game, she does suggest that her and Joel are okay, and that
Right.
I think she kind of suggests that they had a talk,
Yeah.
but we don't know what the conversation was or what the context was. In fact, in that moment in the game, you don't even know what the context is of why they're upset or why she's upset or what even happened at the dance, because the
Right.
actual flashback to the dance doesn't happen until much later in the game. In fact, it might
Oh,
even
really?
yeah. The flashback to the dance is like, I can't even remember if it's. I think it might be as far back as like past Abby's section.
No shit. Oh,
I get.
wow.
It's been so long. I don't remember the exact layout of the game because there is a lot of
Yeah.
jumping around in timeline or whatever. But like, yeah, that the dance, like the famous scene in the dance where there's Ellie with all the lights or whatever that everybody always thinks about, which was
Yeah.
in like one of the earliest trailers for the game. That moment doesn't
Uh-huh.
even happen until like the end of the game. Like you don't even actually see it.
Wow.
So they talk about it, they hint at it, they kind of like create context. They drop context clues to kind of help build an image in your head of what happened the
Yeah.
night before, but they don't show it to you until super late in the game or super late in
Okay.
Ellie's story, anyways. So, but I do think,
Interesting.
but they are playing with that stuff in the show. Obviously, I wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if they end this season by showing you the conversation on the porch, especially because
Yeah.
I do think season 3 is going to be a very Abby heavy season, obviously. So
Right.
they probably want to show you more Joel and give you some kind of closure, I suppose, in terms of like where Ellie and Joel actually stood before he died.
Yeah. I've been very, speaking of Abby centric, I've been very surprised that they haven't done these two kind of simultaneously, like give you an Ellie scene, give you an Abby scene, give you an Ellie scene, because I don't know if it's going to go over well if season 3 suddenly moves to be all Abby, like if they
I
do the
mean,
back in time thing.
I think it all is going to hinge upon what they do in the final episode, because I said this last time too, I think, but at this point I don't think we're going to even see Abby again until in the theater in the last episode of the season. I think Jesse's going to come running through the door and get.
Right.
We're spoiling, right?
Yeah, we
We're in
can
spoiler
spoil. We
territory.
can spoil, yeah.
Spoiler warning: Jesse's gonna come running through the door and get shot in the face, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, boom! There's Abby and Lev. I think that also suggests that we're gonna get to see Lev, but we're as an audience, we're not gonna have any fucking clue who Lev is.
Right.
But
Oh, that's
which I
right.
think is gonna be really interesting. But that's also gonna be really interesting to see because
yeah,
we're not going to be introduced to, I don't think we're going to be introduced to Lev before that moment, I think. And we're also going to get to see, and there's been no talk about them casting Lev. So I have a
yeah,
feeling we're going to see Abby, see Lev. We're going to find out who's playing Lev kind of like in that
right.
moment. And then that's going to be kind of like, who the fuck is that? What's going on there? And then kind of where they decide to end the show. I mean, I know, here's the thing, like this whole story, this whole thing, it doesn't go down easy. It's not an easy pill to swallow, and I think that's what makes it so interesting. So yeah, I think audiences are going to be pissed. I think when season 3 comes around and it's going to be very Abby centric, I think people initially are going to be very upset, but that's the point. And then by the time we get to the end of season 3, you're not going to know what the fuck to feel.
Right.
Like, that is why I love this story so much.
I guess
I hated Abby in the game until I had to like spend 3 days in her shoes,
right,
and see what kind of person she actually is and what motivates her and what drives her and all this stuff. And then I was kind of like,
the thing is, I think it's a brilliant move for a video game. The reason why I love The Last of Us 2 so much is that even though there's a lot of decisions that I don't agree with, I think it was bold. I think
brave,
it was, kind of just putting your balls on the table and, like
smashing them with a hammer. What's this?
smashing them with a hammer. Yeah. Like, it's just like, are made that are meant to evoke certain emotions in you. Did my mic go off?
It kind of cut out for a second, but you're back.
Okay.
Oh, I do hear myself now.
Yep. Sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. I don't.
Technical difficulties.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Check, check.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know why it does that. I need to get a new cord on
You
this
can hear
thing.
me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. But yeah, so anyway, I think it makes a lot of bold moves that are meant to evoke certain feelings in you, whether it be rage or sadness or whatever. And it does that very well by playing with the way a story would normally be told. I don't think that works for a television show. Like I
think
think I
I can
think
see
in
I can
a
see why it'd be a
game
problem.
in a game, by the time you get to Abby's part, you're like 15, 20 hours invested in this story already.
Mm-hmm.
But in a TV show, like it's very easy to be like, I'm just not going to watch next week's episode. Like, I don't know.
I mean, do I think? Well, here's the thing. Most people who are watching the show who never played the game, they made it all the way to the moment where Joel died somehow, miraculously, not
Yeah.
knowing that was coming.
Right.
And I've actually seen a lot of people who are like, I don't know how fucking gamers kept their mouths shut for so long.
Right.
I'm like, like, I don't fucking know how that happened. I feel like that would have been. I feel like people who paid attention to this kind of stuff, who were a big fan of the first season, would have been spoiled on that moment. But it seems to me like most people weren't.
Yeah.
So, I think people, when this season ends, are probably going to expect that when season 3 picks up, it's just going to be a continuation of Ellie's story, following Ellie.
Right.
I feel like a lot of people are going to get there, but by the time they get there, it's going to be a surprise that all of a sudden we're following Abby. And before they know, the goal, I would imagine, from people who are writing and creating the show, would be to get people on board with Abby as quickly as possible to avoid people jumping ship. So whatever season 3, episode 1 is going to be, they've got to move very quickly to hook audiences and let them know that, I know this is weird, and I know you probably don't feel good about this,
right?
But trust us, you want to stay here. So they got to win people back very quickly. But I don't think people are going to go into season 3 dreading that all of a sudden they're not going to see a lot of Ellie. I think it's just going to be like, well, I got to find out what happens next with Ellie. And then season 3 hits and boom, there's Abby. And they're like, what? And then they're already going to be watching.
Yeah.
So they're going to be like, well, let's see what this is all about.
Yeah,
if they can get people on the hook by the end of that first episode, I think people will stay.
Yeah.
But do I think there's going to be a drop-off? I think, there's going to be a drop-off. Yeah. But I think those people are cowards. And I think that's fine. I think they're expecting it.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's such a successful show that even if there's a drop-off, it's like Game of Thrones was never an unsuccessful show, even though people were dropping off like after every season as they got continuously more unhinged.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's true.
It's gonna be fascinating. I can't wait to see what's gonna go. I mean, like, this is another reason why I just love the story, is because it's like it fucks with expectations so much.
Yeah,
and I know I love the story. I know I love like the structure, but I know it's gonna be hard for some people to wrap their head around or get on board with. And I think that's cool. I think that's cool because like so many things, so many shows, so many movies are so fucking safe and predictable.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's always that's not always a bad thing, but like, this is not one of those things.
Yeah.
So
I hope they get me on board with Abby this time around, because at the end of the game,
you're still gonna be there. You're still gonna be there.
Right. Yeah.
God
damn. Yep. Something Neil Druckmann said at the end of episode 3 in the like after episode thing. is he was saying that there wasn't very much time to mourn Joel in the game, and so they took a little bit more time with that in this episode. But I'm like, I don't know. I feel like we got a lot in the game. I feel like they gave us that whole period of time where you can just walk around Joel's house forever if you want. There's no like time limit on it. There's nobody knocking at the door saying, Ellie, we gotta go, or anything like that. You just get to walk around his house and look at all his stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's like time spent in Jackson and stuff. So I was like, huh, like that's interesting.
I did that part yesterday, literally in the game.
Oh yeah.
So what I will say about that is because your brain obviously immediately goes to her walking around the house, which they did in the show and they did in the game.
Right.
But the actual like immediate aftermath of Joel's death is that. Hold on, my headset just turned itself off again. I don't fucking know.
Okay. You're okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
So sorry, I don't know why it keeps doing that. But anyway,
that's okay.
They did the walking around the house in the game and in the show, but like actual like immediate aftermath of Joel's death is glazed over very quickly. Like in the show, you get to see them like actually carrying the body back to Jackson with her riding on the back of the horse crying. You get her waking up in the hospital and immediately reacting to the trauma. Because that's one thing I'm really glad they did in the show, because one of my favorite things about the game, which you don't even really get to truly feel, is like the long-term effects of trauma on people. And they spend a lot of time late game showing that in some really brilliant ways.
Yeah, so good.
They don't spend a lot of time in the immediate aftermath showing the actual I was kind of surprised, having just watched the episode of the show and then playing the game, like how quickly Ellie is able to just kind of pull herself up by her bootstraps and like, let's go.
Right.
And you can see she's sad.
Yeah.
But I felt it more in the show than I did in the game. And maybe that's because in the game they were like going for like, she's numb, she's angry.
Right.
And she wants to get out there and find them and kill them now. So it's two different ways to kind of approach it. But like in the show, she spends that time walking around the house. She smells the jacket, which I think is an amazing moment in both the game. But in the game, you smell the jacket and it hit me. But in the show, she smells it and she's like, there's like tears running down her face, and she's like, and then she hears Dina and she's like trying to like, she's like, I gotta fucking dry my face because I can't let her see me like this kind of situation. And it doesn't feel quite as, it feels sad. It feels like melancholy or whatever in the game. But like it doesn't feel like it's hitting her the same way as it hits her in the show.
Yeah,
like, it just feels much more intense in the show.
Yeah, I think, going into episode 3, we can just talk about the episode as a whole. I think episode 3 was done really well. It's probably, it might be my favorite episode of the season so far.
It's fun. It's interesting going from an episode like episode 2, which is like the Battle of Jackson, to and Joel's death, to this. And I think we kind of knew this was going to be a much more subdued episode.
Right.
And there's like almost no action to speak of in this episode. And I think that's great.
I think it was needed.
I think that's really all he meant, is like they took an entire hour to just kind of like do the emotional fallout of Joel's death. In the game, it's like walk around the house a little bit, and when you're ready, you go, and then next thing you know, her and Dina are on their way out of town. And you get like some really great moments, which we'll talk about in this month, that did not exist in the slightest in the show, and some nice little subversion of expectations in this episode. So
well, we start off with Ellie waking up screaming in the hospital wing.
That was so good. That was in the trailer, and my first instinct was that in the trailer was that was her getting getting the acid burn on her arm to get rid of the
Oh.
bite mark. I thought she was reacting to that, but no, it is a literally the first reaction of her waking up post Joel's death is just immediately going back into the moment and screaming at the top of her lungs, which I thought was
Right.
it's like one of the few things, people talk about trauma a lot, and I don't think a lot of people understand it. I don't claim to like understand it on like a super deep level either, because I have not experienced a lot of trauma in my life, but like
Right.
that felt fucking visceral
Yeah.
and real, and I was like, holy shit, I think that was one of the smartest things they've done so far this season.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah,
because
there
in the game
is.
they do this stuff with the lamb at the end. Do you remember
Oh, yeah.
like on the farm, which I think is
Yep.
really great. I hope they do that in the show. But
Yep.
like this felt very much kind of like that, like her immediately going into PTSD.
Yep.
First thing she experiences waking
Yep.
up. That hit
Yeah.
me hard.
It was done so well, and if anybody's experienced something traumatic, even like the day after a breakup, like if you've been with somebody for like a long time and you wake up the next morning and like for a second you're like fine, you're like, oh, another day waking up, and then it hits you and you're like, oh my god, like we just
My whole
broke
world
up
was
last
different.
night. Yeah, my
Yeah.
whole world is different now, and it hits you. There's that just like overwhelming feeling where you like can't hear anything and you're realizing what you're back to after sleeping and everything.
Yeah.
And so it was done very, very well. I really liked that scene.
Yeah.
And then we get Ellie talking with the psychiatrist,
Gale. Yeah.
Gail, yeah. And there's a really interesting quote between the two of them where Gail says, your final moment, because she's like, we were fighting or whatever, and they're kind of talking about that, and Ellie's like fucking with her, like not really telling her what was going on or anything.
Just trying to say what she needs to say to like
Yeah,
get out
she
of
wants
there.
to get out of there, yeah. But Gail says, your final moment with someone doesn't define your whole relationship with them. Or Ellie says that, and then Gail says it shouldn't, but it often does.
Very
And
insightful. I was
yeah,
like, that's a deep quote.
yeah, and it hit me really hard. I've had a number of friends die over the past few years, but one of them in particular was my best friend of 8 years, and the roommate at the house that I'm at right now. We were roommates. We moved in here together, and we moved in like the summer, and then in the winter he passed away. He had like a respiratory thing that nobody knew about, um, and it was devastating. And also around that time, being roommates with somebody, especially somebody that you know really, really well, is pretty tough.
Yeah.
And we had like a number of arguments and stuff. And so I often think back to that, and I'm like, man, was I being a good friend right before he died? Like, was he being a good friend? Like, what, our relationship wasn't like the strongest it had ever been.
Yeah.
And I think back to that sometimes, and it really sucks to kind of think that like maybe your final words you might have had with this person are not the ones you would be the most proud of. So
Yeah, for
this
sure.
quote, it hit me pretty hard. I was like, and I think it is true that your final moment with someone does not define your entire relationship with them. And it certainly doesn't, but
It has a tendency to
creep up.
I think it has like the suggestion that it has a tendency to like overshadow and that's just like it's
Right.
like a mental thing. It's like it doesn't define your whole relationship with them, but like it can be hard to like look past it, and I think that's what she was getting at here.
Yeah.
And that's kind of that's a huge like kind of thematic, that's a theme of this entire story.
Right.
um it's funny, I was talking about this on social media yesterday because I'm playing the game again, and I was just thinking like I know I had lots of conversations and I heard lots of discourse about The Last of Us Part 2 and from both sides, people who love it, people who hate it or whatever. And like it almost always seems to me like everybody tries to boil The Last of Us 2 or reduce The Last of Us 2 down to being this like super shallow theme of like the cycle of violence. And like that certainly is
A part of it.
a part of it. That is maybe the driving or like that's what drives the action, I suppose. But
Sure.
like the story in general, I feel like is a much more visceral,
Complicated.
complicated, like look into like the human soul of like how
Mm-hmm.
grief and trauma changes people.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't think that idea is simple at all. I think this is just one way of exploring that idea. And the cycle of violence is just the like kind of like the engine that drives the story to those points. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think I don't think enough people give the story credit for being a much more uh, in-depth, thoughtful story because I think there's a lot of insight to be found here, and I think that's one thing this show has done really well is kind of like tapped into those like underlying themes that maybe went over some people's heads in the game.
Yeah.
Um, and I think a lot of that stems from Craig Mazin's writing
Yeah.
because it's interesting. I you know because Neil Druckmann wrote the story for the games with he had a co-writer as well, and I can't remember her name off the top of my head. I'm sorry, but they did I think they did a fantastic job with this writing the story for the game. But you can obviously it's an interesting exercise to see two people like say, okay, we're going to take the same structure or same skeleton of a story, and we're going to kind of like try and find slightly different paths to get to those points. And Craig Mazin's approach leads to moments like this
Right.
that I think speak on a really deep level to like the overall theme of the story, which is what I love about it.
Yeah, for sure. And I kind of wonder if there's some things that, Neil Druckmann puts out The Last of Us 2. It's received in a number of ways by fans. And I wonder if in between then and the show being written, if he's thought about like, oh, maybe that didn't come across the way
Oh,
I
I can
intended it in the
for
game, and like
sure,
is tweaking it and stuff like
for
that.
sure,
That'd
yeah.
be interesting to hear about for
I
sure.
mean, I will tell you this: you don't even have to wait. It's that podcast, the Last of Us podcast that is out.
Oh yeah, I gotta listen to
Covers
that.
Oh, it's such. I mean, I love listening to that from week to week, and it's hosted by Troy Baker and Craig
Oh,
Mazin and Neil Druckmann are. It's the three of them every week, and those conversations are very insightful. And also part of that, and I don't think I've watched it in full, but in the Last of Us 2 remastered, at least there's a like a documentary about the making of the game, which I think is
yeah,
also really interesting because, like, obviously, writing a story like this, you have to, it's like in a lot of situations, it's like a committee. Like you have to sit down as a team and make decisions, and like not all of those decisions are going to go over well, but like in the moment, they have to make those decisions, and it feels right to them in the moment.
yeah,
And I feel it's probably the same shit with the show. Like but they have now they have kind of they can reflect back on those decisions. Like a lot of the same decisions are coming up, and it's like okay, well
right,
now's our chance to like explore what it would have been like if we went the other direction with this.
right.
So, and I think that's the sign of a
Interesting.
great adaptation.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah. I think that's so cool. Like in the Dark Matter adaptation on Apple TV, you have I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody, but it's based on a book, and you have the main character who is a family man, and then you have the villain who basically wants his life.
yeah,
And in the book you only get the family man's point of view, but there's a ton of stuff that's going on with the villain that you just never see. And so Blake Crouch was the I don't know, like executive writer or whatever. He had like the final say on anything that was written for that show. And it's exactly like the book, like literally page for page, perfect. But the one thing he added that he said in an interview,
Mm-hmm.
he's like, I always regretted that I didn't write the villain's perspective because there's so much that you have to understand with him.
Yeah.
And so in the show, it bounces back and forth between the main character and the villain. And it was an excellent addition because it doesn't change anything. It just gives you more information. And if you haven't watched Dark
I had it,
Matter on
but I'm adding it
Apple,
to my list.
dude, it is so good. It'll be like, I wouldn't be surprised if it's one of your favorite shows of the year.
Okay.
It's
And
that good.
I see it only has one season right now, but it looks like it's still
Yeah.
going. So there's going to be another
Yes.
season.
Yeah. Season 2 is coming. Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, I'm going to
Season.
watch this.
Yeah, it's so good. Season 1 ends where the book ends. And so he's doing a season 2 and nobody really knows what it's going to be. But he's writing it. So anything he writes is canon. And the first season was so incredibly true to the book.
Yeah.
So yeah, check it out, dude. It is like, I think it's by far one of the best adaptations that's ever been done.
Sweet. I will
So
check
good.
that out. I will check that
Nice.
out.
So we get Ellie, her and Dina sit at the table, and Dina starts telling her about the WLF, and Ellie starts to get mad, and Dina says, "It occurred to me that if the only thing you know about someone is where they're going, maybe let them get there first." Do you agree with this logic? I'm not sure if
I think I do.
because you could fall, like, if you know where they're going, you
I
could
mean,
go that direction and hope to run into them, right?
yeah, but also at the same time, in this moment, she's trying to like her goal was to keep Ellie
Right.
in place so she could heal,
Right.
and Ellie would have just immediately like left and probably risked death.
Right.
Just getting to Abby. Uh, so I mean, it's kind of like flawed logic, but like I feel like in the moment she knew Ellie was going to be upset, and it's like,
Yeah.
hear me out. This is the reason why maybe don't be so upset. Like
Right.
it is. I mean, I feel like you have this space between Jackson and Seattle, and like if you're trying to find them in somewhere in that giant open space, it could be a lot harder. Um,
Yeah.
so it's not. It doesn't. It struck me that like it works on two folds. Like
Sure.
it ensures it keeps Ellie in place, getting back to full strength, and then laying out enough logic that it will calm her down in the moment, because she was obviously very pissed that Dina kept all this from her and that they
Right.
were wasting time. And she's like, "We're not wasting time. You are fucking, you are healing. Like you have a she like in the beginning of the episode when she wakes up screaming, she has a fucking tube going into her
Right.
abdomen. I mean, like she was not well.
Yeah. Right.
um, so, and that's another thing that the show does pretty well. The game kind of like glazes over. You don't really have a good feel for like how long it's been in the game since Joel died when they set off to go. Um,
Oh.
like in the game, the moment pretty much happens. Dina rushes in and kind of like saves Ellie, and then
Yeah.
she blacks out, and then more or less the next scene is like Ellie waking up, and it's like you can tell it's been it could be a couple days, it could be a couple weeks. I don't know. She's not in the
Right.
hospital. She's in her own bed. She's
Right.
clearly it's Tommy coming to talk to her, and you can't tell like Tommy clearly is like up and moving and not like
Right.
stewing in his own grief or whatever because he just lost his brother.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, how fucking long has it been since
Right.
this happened? And I was like, is she okay? Like she got the shit kicked out of her.
Right.
So you can tell there's been a little bit of time, but here they make it pretty clear that like she was hospitalized
Right.
with severe, possibly internal injuries because
Yeah.
she got just fucking whooped.
Yeah.
So I think it was a smart move to kind of like. And also, it's everybody talks about like, could Ellie have pulled this off on her own? It's like, well, she certainly
No.
wouldn't have been able to if she was also like super weakened after that. So like,
Yeah.
I think it was smart to like emphasize that we're letting her get back to her full strength and trying to be smart about it. And it also establishes Dina as like kind of like the level-headed person of the two.
Right.
She's putting more thought into it, and Ellie is very much just like, give me a gun and point me in the right direction. I'm going.
Right.
So I like this scene too because it
Yeah.
it endeared us to Dina more. She brought cookies.
Yep.
Which was a nice touch.
I also liked when it was just like a very Ellie thing. I was like, I swear to God, if Bella Ramsey makes some fucking joke right here, I'm gonna riot. But she dips into the cookies, and I thought she was gonna say something like smart assy, but she does like a very Ellie thing where she's just like staring at Dina and grabs a cookie and like holds it up and just kind of shrugs and bites it. I'm like, oh, that was like a very Ellie thing. I don't know how to describe it, but it was just like it was a very.
It was like she was reminding herself that she likes Dina like a lot.
Yeah,
like
right.
Maybe I should just rein it in a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, I thought it was a good moment. Also, this is another difference between the show and the game. In the game, it's Tommy who tells her all of their names and where they're from or whatever. And
right, because he's with Joel when that happens. Right.
Yeah, so like we're seeing kind of the butterfly effect of like switching Tommy for Dina. Now Dina's the one who has all the information, and Dina's the one who's setting up their trip or whatever, and like supporting. Like it's nice in the game because in the game you just kind of find out that like Ellie's like, I'm ready to go, and Dina and she's like, you still have a chance to turn back, and Dina just basically says, if you go, I go. And I was like, that's a nice scene, it's a nice sentiment. But here you get to see it's kind of like Dina's the one saying like, I know you're gonna go, and I'm gonna do all the planning, I'm gonna do all the things to make sure you do this correctly, and then you get back here alive. So I think it was a smart move, but it also kind of leads to another question I have now, because I had forgotten some of the details of the game. Playing it now, I had forgotten that in the game, Tommy goes off first.
Yes.
And that's what gets Maria to even let them leave in the first place, because Maria's like, go bring my fucking husband back. And that doesn't happen in the show. So it makes me kind of wonder what their plan is for Tommy, because Tommy plays a pretty big role in Seattle as well. Or
I wonder if they're just gonna have Tommy go after them, or like, I mean, we only saw them leave in the middle of the night, so we don't know if Tommy also left that night. Like,
I have no idea. If I had to guess, I think in the show, Tommy and Jesse are going to pair up to go after them. So that's how Jesse's going to cut. Because like in the game, Jesse shows up, and then later, and they're following Tommy. It's like there's kind of like three groups.
Right.
It's Dina and Ellie, Tommy on his own, Jesse on his own, and now it's going to be Jesse and Tommy, and that's kind of like a shorter way of bringing them together.
Right.
For what's going to be the end of the season.
That makes more sense.
And again, I think ultimately it means it's going to give us more time with Tommy in the show, which is nice. But it also makes me wonder how they're going to do, because like there are things that happen with Tommy that correspond with Abby's storyline that makes me wonder, so are they just not doing that in the show? I don't know. I feel like maybe we'll probably have more answers to that question maybe after tonight's episode.
Right.
If they decide to show us more of that. So
Okay. We gotta run through some of these final episode 3 notes here. We see the Seraphites or the Scars. I can't remember what their actual name is.
Seraphites is the official name. Scars is the derogatory term that the WLF calls them.
Okay, yeah, we do see those. And that was just kind of a cool first look at them. And I can't remember who is killing them. Is that the WLF that's going?
So the Seattle is like ground zero for basically an ongoing war between WLF and the Seraphites. But it was interesting. It was an interesting introduction in the show to the Seraphites, because it's kind of like a peaceful, like, look at this tribe of people who are obviously kind of religious in nature, but like it doesn't immediately depict them as like these violent violent sociopaths or whatever, like, which is kind of
Yeah.
in the game. Like when you first meet them, you're just like, holy fuck, these people are insane. And I
Right.
think
Yeah.
they're still insane in the show,
Yeah.
but like it immediately, and this is the thing about the show too, is like it kind of latches on to the what do you call it? There's this like ongoing theme of like pairing like a parental figure and a child.
Oh yeah.
So you had Joel and Ellie, and you have Abby and Lev, and then but in this moment you have the Seraphites, and they introduce you to this like guy who's leading this group, and he's talking with his daughter,
Right.
which is like they're not super important characters, but like
Yeah.
it kind of humanizes them
Right.
before we later see that they're also fucking
insane. Yeah.
insane.
Well, there's also the a good theme of and it kind of mirrors Abby and Ellie and Joel and Abby's dad.
Mm-hmm.
Later on we see Isaac like torturing one of them.
Yeah.
And he's like, we're killing you guys because you killed us. He's like, we're only killing you because you killed us. And like back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
The stupid nature of war. What do you know?
And it's just like this cycle of violence.
Cycle of violence.
And it mirrors Ellie and Abby so well, because it's like, well, Joel only shot your dad because you were trying to kill me. Well, we were only trying to kill you because he was coming after it. And like all like I love how it kind of mirrors this, like, at some point we're talking in circles. At some point it's nonsense and everybody needs to stop killing each other.
Yeah. And that's how I feel about reality.
Yeah,
to be
for
honest,
sure.
like,
yeah,
that's how I feel about reality. Everybody just needs to calm the fuck down and stay in their lane.
Yeah. We get the council meeting where Ellie is. This is such a good scene. Ellie's trying to convince everybody to let her go and bring. Did they say 16 other people? They wanted to bring 16 people.
Yeah, I mean,
I was like, what?
I think that was just kind of the general like when you plan these kinds of expeditions or whatever, like for the sake of being safe. Like when you think back to when like the people of Jackson found Joel and Ellie at the end of season 1 or near the end of season 1, right? You remember that fucking when Maria rode up on them and they had like 20 people? Like that's just how they move and that's how they stay alive. So like if you're gonna do this right, the consensus is you go out as a big group. So yeah, and this council meeting thing was just a really brand new addition. That was super well thought out. And I also really loved the scene with Jesse coming to talk to Ellie the night before to be like, you need to like write something down, because if you go out there and just spew a bunch of bullshit, nobody's going to vote for you.
Right.
And that was a really nice touch. It once again reiterates that I fucking love Jesse.
Yeah, he's such a good character.
But yeah, she gives this like really impassioned, really well thought out, constructed, like, seems logical, even though it might be bullshit.
Right.
It just kind of feels like she's just saying once again what she thinks everybody wants to hear her say to get her way.
Right.
But the real surprise comes
with Seth. He one guy stands up and he's like, we need to like forgive them and like all this stuff, and Seth stands up and he's like, fuck that. He's like, they take one of ours and you want to take the locks off your doors? Grow the fuck up. And I love how like pissed he is, and like how like it was such a great performance from that actor.
And this is like a really microscopic example of like why I love this story overall, and why I think the game does really well, and why I think people should like really just trust the show and kind of stick with it, especially when we talk about when you get to Abby.
Right.
It's like the whole thing is an exercise in like showing you the complexity of like human beings, and that like, people can be redeemed in a lot of cases, not all cases.
Sure.
But like they took this kind of one-off character who, even in the game, was just like forgettable, just like he was a bigot. He was a piece of shit. Ellie didn't like him, and you never see him really again after that. and they made you kind of hate him in the show because he's a fucking bigot.
Yeah.
But then he turns around and goes to bat for Ellie and Dina twice in this episode.
Twice.
And it doesn't change what he did or what he said, but it
shows you that there's a deeper complexity to probably all humans. Like everybody, like everybody, they have their bad qualities, they have their good qualities.
There is a willingness to change or to try to make amends for there was a recognition in him that okay, maybe I went about this the wrong way, or maybe I rushed to judgment or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And he stands up for her at the council, and then later on when he's the one who helps them get out of Jackson at night. And you can see, even though Ellie's not very receptive to his peace offering or whatever, he still does it. And he's still he doesn't get mad at her for not accepting it. He's just I'm doing what I think is right.
Yep.
You're doing what you think is right. And you can tell he's I'm sorry.
Yeah.
He's I feel bad for what I said. And I don't think there are some people in this life, in this world, that are not redeemable, who have no desire to change. And those people should not be given any, forgiveness or whatever. But when you see somebody genuinely trying to right a wrong, I think it strikes a chord. It hits people, and that is what this game or the story does over and over. Some on a small level like this, and then later on a much bigger level, or what it's attempting to do. Anyways, it's not necessarily always successful, but that's what makes it interesting. So I really loved the addition of trying to make Seth this more complex, layered human character in this episode.
Yeah, it's great. I love when they're sneaking out and he comes up with this rifle and he goes to hand it to her and he says, "It's better. It's better. Trade." I just love his very
gun.
His very straightforward approach to it. And then he gives them a horse full of stuff they'll need. And I think, is it Tommy that gives them this horse in the game?
No, it's Maria. Because remember, Tommy's the one who left, so Maria's the one who's
they're going after Tommy.
I wasn't going to let you go, but now I'm going to let you go because my fucking husband's an idiot.
Right.
So, which is also works. It's just different, and I like both versions of it. But it was cool to see this subversion of expectations.
Yeah. I like this a lot, and I think she shakes his hand before they go.
He extends his hand. She seems reluctant. She does it, and you can tell she's I don't really buy into this. I still think you're an asshole, but I appreciate the gesture. And I was that's just a really nice sentiment. It's you can both agree that you don't like each other.
Yeah.
But you're both trying.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty touching.
Yeah, it's good.
So, and if we never see Seth again, which we probably won't, but I feel that was kind of a nice little extension of that character.
Yeah, just a good way to round out his character and everything. And then as they leave, Ellie says goodbye to Joel at his grave.
Mm-hmm.
Is this something we get in the game?
In the game, his gravesite is inside Jackson, and that's where one of the first things you see where you actually play as Ellie again is her sitting by his grave. But it's just her touching his grave and wiping a tear away or whatever. In the show, she ventures out to his grave, which is a couple miles outside of town, and she leaves the coffee beans, which was a nice
touch,
tribute, nice touch. But yeah, I mean, this is just another unexpected shift for the show that I think worked really well.
Yeah,
I kind of wish it was more of a moment in the game, because in the game it's
you would think it would
pretty
be
brief,
right?
Pretty brief.
Yeah. Surprising. On the road, they see that the little girl from the Seraphites we saw earlier is dead. They were all killed. And
this is the first hint of the conflict between the WLF and the Seraphites.
Right. There's a couple hints that Dina is pregnant.
Yeah.
She When does she
vomits.
throw up for the? When does she? Was it when they saw the dead Seraphites?
Yeah, she throws up after seeing the dead Seraphites.
Right. Okay.
She throws up again in episode 4 as well. Like they're pretty heavy handed with the vomit. It's kind of like the clue, I guess.
I like this little clue though, where they're in the tent and Ellie says, they were talking about the kiss, and she's like, "You should go back to Jesse," and she says that she already did, with a little bit of a smirk on their face, meaning, like, yeah, we had sex after that or whatever. Like, you know, it's a pretty good little hint.
They skipped the you know, Dina and Ellie's first romantic connection, I suppose. In the show, and they're moving it around, and this was kind of another kind of like tease. Of that. The game had already long since had that moment.
Right. Yeah, and I think it worked much better in the game than it did in the show. But we'll talk about that when we get to episode 4. The sign as they're heading into Seattle. Do you know where they're coming from?
I mean, they're coming from the direction of Jackson. I'm going to be honest.
Where's Jackson?
It's in Wyoming.
Oh, Wyoming. Okay.
Yeah.
Because how is Seattle 9 miles away, but Tacoma is 41?
I'm also not an expert on the layout of Washington.
Yeah, I know, but like Seattle and Tacoma are like practically the same city. They're like right next to each other, and I'm like, dude, Tacoma is not 41 miles south of Seattle. Like, what?
I mean, I'm tempted to. That would suggest, looking at a map, that they somehow looped and they went above Seattle and then came back down from like north of Seattle. And this would be like where they're like maybe really close to Seattle, because like Tacoma probably is, you know, closer to 40 miles from downtown Seattle if you're coming from
the north. Okay.
Yeah. That's my only guess. I don't know why they would have looped around, because that would have required them to go around Seattle and then come down from the top. But
just odd. You know, I was like,
they're
being
banking
from
on
Seattle.
Most people not knowing that.
I know, but yeah, as someone that like lived in Seattle my whole life, I was just like, where are they coming from?
What the actual?
We at the end of the episode, we get our first look at the WLF. There's a lot of them, and this isn't even a fraction of their numbers.
They tie it together with like that one comment about like, hopefully they're not a big group, and then boom.
They're just massive. Group. It's crazy huge. Okay, so then any other episode 3 thoughts?
No, I think it was a nice kind of a breather of an episode in between like 2 and 4, because 2's pretty heavy, really heavy on the action. Episode 4 is pretty heavy on action as well. So this was kind of a nice emotional, character-driven episode. Also, just a nice breather in between all the chaos.
Right. Cool. Well, in between episode 3 and 4, I'm going to take a quick bathroom break, if you don't mind, just like a couple minutes. Cool. Okay.
All right, let's go.
So, episode. By the way, episode 3 was called The Path, and then episode 4 is Day 1. Um, I was so confused on what this initial scene was, and it wasn't until watching the after the credits Neil Druckmann thing where I like finally understood it.
Did you
So
miss the 11 years ago?
I must have,
Yeah,
because I
that would be confusing. Yeah.
yeah, because I think I was like writing my notes and the show was on the other screen and I missed the 11 years before or whatever because I was like, what is going on here?
It's funny how you miss one thing like that and it can just completely
Change your
devastate your
perspective.
understanding of what
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But yeah, this is Isaac's origin story, right?
This is the story of Isaac's defection to the WLF.
Yeah. And what a great scene. We have Josh Peck telling
I
a
apparently am
story.
the only person in the world who has no idea who Josh Peck is, but my wife was losing her mind, and I've heard so many people talking about Josh Peck, and I was like, who?
Did you never watch Drake and Josh as a kid?
No, like what?
What?
Yeah, it's bizarre to me that this is such a well-known thing. But yeah, everybody was losing their minds.
Oh my god.
Yeah. To me, it felt like how I lost my mind when I realized I was looking at Ed Sheeran in Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
This was a fantastic scene.
Yeah.
Very cool look into Isaac's backstory because you don't really get a lot of that. You get hints of it. You get like you find notes and you see like but like you see like a bombed out Fedra truck or whatever in the game, but you don't really get any context or like how it's related. You find all these notes referring to Isaac, and then you of course meet Isaac later.
Yeah.
So it's a very different approach, but it was very interesting. And also, is it Jeffrey Wright? Is that his name?
Yeah, he played Isaac in the game, right?
Played him in the game, and he's just such an amazing actor.
He's so good.
I love him in anything. He's so fucking good.
Westworld was my first introduction to him, and I just like fell in love with his character. He's such a good actor.
Yep, I just watched The Agency on Apple TV or Apple Plus or whatever.
Oh, should I watch it?
It's pretty good, and he's in that. And yeah, he's just such an electric, presence or whatever on screen. So it was cool to see him not only be the voice but also embody the character because he wasn't also like a mocap actor or anything in the game.
Right.
So this was really, really neat. But yeah, also like I kind of in the moment I was like, I can tell there's going to be a flip coming here, and I don't know what it's going to be. But when he pulled the pin on that grenade and tossed it in the back of the truck, God. My jaw hit the floor. I was like, what the fuck?
Oh god. Such a good scene.
Such a great moment. And to see like, and I was like, they spend the first couple minutes just like making you realize, God, these fucking like dude bros are such just trash.
Yeah.
and then you get this like new kid who kind of speaks up and he's like clearly pretty naive to what's going on or whatever. And then you had this excellent.
He's the one that asked why they call them voters, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which that's the one he ends up taking it.
I can't remember if that was in the game or not, like the voters thing.
Oh yeah,
it probably was. Like stuff.
Yeah, maybe. I didn't know. I didn't know what they were talking about for sure.
But it was this kid asked the question and looks pretty kind of like put off by the answer or whatever. It's like that's fucked up. So he gives this kid a chance to come out of the car.
Right.
And then bombs the fucking truck with the grenade. I was like, that's fucking amazing.
Oh my god, so brutal.
And then he just turns to this kid and says, make your choice. And I was like,
yep.
What a badass moment.
Yeah, so good. So good. Yeah, it looks like the WLF started with maybe good intentions.
Yeah. But before Isaac kind of comes into the fold and becomes kind of their leader.
Yeah.
They were trying. It was like a community of like normal people rising up to like push back against
Fedra,
which was very quickly devolving into like fascist regime,
right,
pull up and keeping rations and food and like hoarding resources and stuff and treating civilians as
right,
banned people or whatever. So yeah, it started out as those people kind of revolting and rising up, and then flash forward 11 years after Isaac comes on board, and now we see Isaac has risen through the ranks to become this like leader figure.
right.
And it's kind of like it's tainted the whole fucking thing.
And we even see the same guy that he pulled out of the truck. We see him guarding the door when Isaac is interrogating this Seraphite.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like burning him with. He has a great monologue about a frying pan. Such a good monologue.
So good. Oh my god. I was like, this is probably one of those moments where like Neil Druckmann is like watching this or like reading Craig Mazin's stuff and it's like, fuck, this is better than the game.
Right?
Like,
Oh, it's so
good.
It's so good. He just goes on this monologue about a fry. He's like, I always wanted to own one of these frying pans. Like, I didn't know that it was going to be in the apocalypse that I would finally have it. He's like, the great thing about them is they hold their heat really well. And he's like, torturing this Seraphite guy.
Trying to get information, yeah.
Yeah, and the guy says he's like, or Isaac says, he's like, why do you think you guys are gonna win? He's like, we have all of this advanced technology, you have bows and arrows and all this stuff. And the Seraphite says, every day one of your wolves becomes a Seraphite, every single day, and none of us ever have left to become a wolf.
Yeah.
It was just like, such a great line, and that's when he finally shoots him, and the camera.
Well, actually, there's one other detail about this scene that I think is before he shoots him that I think is really important. Is like when he burns him once, asks him the question, here's the answer, and then he heats up the pan again, and he turns around with the pan in his hand, and the Seraphite is already holding his hand out, like, ready to be burned. Yeah, and I was like, that is so psychotic, but it just speaks to their devotion and how he's not going to, like, no matter what Isaac does, he's not going to win. He's not going to get what he wants from this interrogation. And that's what gets him to pull the gun out and shoot him. And I was like, fuck, that was smart. That was such a cool moment.
That was such a good move.
It speaks, it kind of, once again, humanizes the Seraphites before later showing us kind of like how fucked up they are. And it shows us how far Isaac has fallen, as like he has become this basically the thing he was fighting against 11 years later, and how he's become this figure, this villainous figure in the present day. And then you see the kid on the outside of the door clearly has also become one of the terrible he's lost his naivety and he's lost his innocence, and he refers to the Seraphites as fucking animals.
Right. Yeah. It was just a good way to kind of, great way to show kind of the decline of everybody. It was really, really good. I was also just thinking about, as I was thinking about the Seraphites, one of my favorite parts of The Last of Us 2 is when you're in the like the Citadel. They have like this big like city, basically, or a village or whatever, and you're going up and up and up and up and up and up, and the whole place is like burning and all that stuff. I want to get to that part of the game. It was so many interesting.
Like, so many cool set pieces in this game.
Yeah.
And a lot of them happen to be in Abby's section, but
yeah.
I also loved the Seraphite village, like on the island.
Is
that what you're talking about?
I think so. It's when you're like escorting Lev, I think. Yeah.
Because like there's a moment where they're climbing through like this skyscraper or whatever, and
not the skyscraper. It's like the actual like Seraphite like village. Thing that the tower they have.
Yeah. So it's we're not gonna see that this season though.
Yeah, I
But
know.
it's gonna
Yeah,
be cool.
that's a ways off. It's a ways
It's
off.
gonna be cool.
We get Ellie and Dina in the music store. She finds the guitar and plays "Take on Me" by Aha.
Mm-hmm.
And what a great scene it was. That's in the thumbnail for this video.
Yeah.
Yeah, such a
This was such an
great.
important optional scene from the
Right.
game that
Yep.
would have been a crime to exclude from the show, and they didn't even abbreviate it or anything. They literally let her play like the entire thing.
Yeah. Did you know
And
that's Bella Ramsey really playing the guitar?
that is Bella Ramsey playing the guitar and
That's
singing,
crazy.
and I was
That's
like,
wild.
that's the same way because Ashley Johnson in the game played and sang the song.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
so it's so cool that they did that. And man, this scene of Dina watching her play, I was like, this is going to become one of those memes where it's like, find someone who looks at you the way Dina
Right.
looks at
Right.
Ellie. Because
Yeah.
holy shit, I was like, she is like falling hard and she's like
Yep.
crying, and I was like, oh my god,
It's
holy
so
shit.
good. It's so good.
And I just love kind of like the final, like the cherry on top, and at the very end, where she's like, "That's pretty good," and she's like, "Joel taught you well," and he's like, "He did," and I was like, "Oh,
Yep.
I don't even need to see Joel teaching you to feel
Yep.
that," and I was like,
Right.
that's so good,
Oh,
such
so
a great moment.
amazing. So amazing.
I'm about to do that moment in the game.
Ah, it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
I love in the game how they just like let you mess around with the guitar. Like they give
Mhm.
you like a few chords that you can play and then you can like strum it either
Yeah.
direction, and like that's pretty sweet. I like that.
It was a totally unnecessary game mechanic, but I'm glad they did it
Yeah.
because it's very, very cool.
Yeah, it was a really interesting way to figure out guitar on a
And there's people
controller.
online who can play like whole fucking songs.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's wild. You
It's
basically
crazy.
you basically created a digital fake instrument, and people learned how to play it, and that's neat.
Right. And don't you use the touchpad? Don't you like
Yeah.
strum the touchpad?
Strum
Yeah.
the touchpad, and you hold the stick in different directions at different
Right.
intensities to like get different chords and stuff. Yeah, it's
That's so
wild.
cool. So there's a lot of action stuff that I didn't really write down. But Ellie and Dina escaping the WLF, killing a WLF member.
You glanced over the radio tower or the radio station. Is that because that's an important scene? I mean, we don't have to talk about it a bunch, but like,
yeah, I mean, you probably paid more attention to it than I did. I was kind of taking notes, and I saw like action scene, and I was watching it, but I was like, okay,
Yeah.
cool, action scene. If there's any details you'd like to go into, please do.
Well, one, this is the first glimpse you see of like the violence on the Seraphites side, because they've hung these WLF members up and like gutted them and let their intestines just kind of like hang out of them, which is like super fucked. But also this out of the entire series so far, this was maybe the most one-to-one moment from of capturing gameplay, because like you have Dina and Ellie sneaking around. They get separated, and they're trying to find their way back to each other while not alerting these WLF members. So they're hiding behind like crates and shit.
Right.
And like this entire time, I was just thinking to myself, like, "Fuck, I want to control this.
I know.
I was like, I want to tell you to go this way or do that." And then of course Ellie gets upstairs and she manages to sneak up behind someone, because I think she alerts him. She's trying to sneak up on him, and then she steps on some glass or something, and he hears her. And then it just goes into like, we've all been there. If you've played the game, you've been there. You're like, fuck, and then you just panic. And she jumps on his back and stabs him in the neck. And I was like, oh my god, this is like one for one a skirmish from the game. And I thought it was just such a cool moment. You don't get a lot of that in the show.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of like the bottle from the first episode, where she takes the bottle and throws it.
They tease like little hints of like what it's like to play the game. But this felt like the most. The only other thing I can think of is like in season 1 when she's trying to avoid David in the burning restaurant, and she's like sneaking around. I was like, that was kind of a gameplay-esque moment. But this is like one of those, but it like actually feels like a combat scenario, which was, and it's the first taste of Ellie using like her taekwondo skills, like she's been kind of building up in practice.
The radio tower wasn't the one where the girl is playing the PSP, is she? That's not the radio
that's
tower?
later. That's
That's
when she's
later.
sneaking into. That's probably gonna be tonight. That's when she's sneaking into the hospital.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Then we get the insane like train cars scene, like whatever that I forget the sound transit or sound rail or whatever that is that goes through
They go
Seattle.
underground.
Yeah.
This was also like there is a moment, like there's a sequence in the game that's kind of like this, but it's not
Yeah.
nearly as crazy. This is their
Right.
big horde moment.
Yeah, in the game you're just going through these cars, like you're just
Yeah.
going through the tunnel and making your way around. There's not like a huge horde after you
Yeah.
or anything.
I love Dina sitting there counting the clickers, because you can hear. Were you not paying attention to this either?
I don't know,
Oh,
maybe not.
bro, you need to stop taking notes during these.
I know, I know.
Dude, that's like the coolest moment of the episodes. Like they hear a clicker, they hear the first infected, they see the WLF coming into the room or whatever.
Yeah.
And Dina is sitting there and she's holding her hand up and she's counting as she hears the different infected making noises. So she's like one, and she just keeps counting up. And then she gets to a point where she's like, I'm running out of fingers, because you could just hear all the different coming from different directions, whatever. And that's when they see the horde come bursting through the side, and then they're like,
yeah, I need
gotten away from us.
Yeah, I need to go back and watch this scene, because it's definitely like the scene where I was like taking notes and not paying attention as much.
She does that in the first episode when they go into the grocery store. I think she does the counting.
Oh, really? Interesting.
She counts like two of the clickers, whatever, or no.
Oh, yeah.
Store. It's where they're picking up the bottle. Where Ella picks up the bottle. She's going 1, 2, because that's how she tells it. They both got a clicker on either side of them.
Right.
So this is like a sequel,
a callback to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But yeah, watch that scene. It's good.
They're getting out of there and they're trying to push this like turnstile, and Dina gets caught on one side of it, and Ellie, like the clicker goes to bite Dina, and Ellie shoves her arm in there and gets bitten right in front of Dina.
Very cool way to kind of like, because this moment happened in the game, but in a very different way, because they haven't introduced spores yet.
Do you remember how it happened in the game? Because I was trying to remember.
Yeah, in the game, Ellie's gas mask breaks.
Yes. Oh, that's right. That's
and
right.
then Dina is about to rip off her mask to like give
right.
Ellie, and she says, "Nope, stop! You don't need to do that."
Right.
So it's kind of a play on that moment, but more direct, like, because they haven't introduced spores yet. But like, she gets bitten right in front of her, but in a very cool, like, what seems like a very brave like sacrifice Ellie is making, but she's really just doing the practical thing. She's like, fucking bite me, because it doesn't fucking matter.
Right.
So I thought that was a nice subversion of expectation there again.
Yeah, it's so good. And we go directly into the theater.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely perfect.
This is more or less like what happens in the game, because right after they get out of the subway is when they come out, and the first thing they see is the theater, and they book it.
Right. And it looks exactly like in the game. She even bars the door with the same chair that she does in the game. Like, she lifts that same kind of chair and puts it in the door.
I will say this: I have one major criticism of this episode. It's probably different than yours. The one thing that really bothers me with this episode is that they rush into the theater and they don't clear it. They just hang out in the lobby, and all that shit happens, which is great. But like, up until this point, they've taken their time to like make sure there's no one around, clear buildings, be smart about it, and then all of a sudden after being chased by a horde into this giant theater, they don't take any time to like
you don't think to look around. And
it's nitpicky, but it's just one of those things they could have probably done something to.
Well, I thought we were gonna get the scene where she goes into the theater, Dina lays down, Ellie goes wandering around and makes her way like all the way upstairs to the radio room
to clear the theater.
Yeah, and I thought we were gonna get that scene.
This is probably just one of those things where it's like, we only have so much to work with here. What can we cut and maybe get away with?
But I think
that was probably one of them.
I think the theater it plays such an important role though. Like it's such
Yeah.
a huge part of the game. I'm really surprised they didn't emphasize
Yeah.
kind of the importance of this place.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so
I'm wondering if they might spend some of the time tonight on tonight's episode doing that. But
well,
I
didn't
feel
they
like the
leave at
moment
the end?
they were on the roof,
Oh, okay, okay. I thought they
but
were
like,
like
but Dina stays behind at the theater when she goes to the hospital. So
so in the game she stays behind, but
in the game,
It looks like
yeah,
Dina's leaving with her now.
I think that might be the suggestion here. I think we'll find out tonight, but like
Yeah.
that would be
So
weird. That would be weird.
so
But honestly, it would also be like a, it would make, because a lot of the story. You know what? I don't know. I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see if she
I'll
goes with
I'll
it or
I'll
not.
I'll talk about my specific gripes in a minute, but real quick, she does the whole thing where she's like, I'm immune. I know it sounds crazy. I know you're not going to believe me. I wouldn't believe me either. I'm going to go lay on this chair and go to sleep. You keep the gun on me all night and you watch me. And if I get up and I'm like, and then she wakes up to water dripping on her and she goes,
I was like, this water is about to like fuck
I,
her over.
I know. And she's like, no, it's just the water. It's just the water. And just what a great scene where she's like, she unwraps her arm. She's like, see, like I'm not infected, like I'm okay. And I love that.
Yeah.
And then Dina tells Ellie, this is where I start to have issues.
I'm sorry, but can I just say, for people who don't know the story, you're watching this for the first time, who probably have not picked up on the fact that she's pregnant, um, the choice of having her just blurt out, "I'm pregnant" here in this
Yeah.
moment was probably the biggest left turn people were not
Mm-hmm.
expecting. Like, what?
Yep.
Which is, it's almost comical the moment
It
she
was
decided to say that out loud.
it was a weird way to do it.
Yeah.
And she like tells her, she blurts out I'm pregnant and then kisses her and then they hook up and then they like kind of wake up in the morning and Ellie explains she covered her other scar with a chemical burn and like the tattoo and all that stuff. And then Dina talks about her like being pregnant and Ellie says I'm going to be a dad, which is also just a
Okay.
weird line.
So okay?
That's not my complaint, but
Okay.
it
Because
was
this
a
is
weird
very
line.
different. It is very different from the
Yeah.
game, because in the game, Ellie is very upset when she finds out that Dina is pregnant. In the show,
That
she's
is my
happy.
complaint. Yes, that is very much my complaint because and here's why. In the game, when Ellie finds out she's pregnant, her specific gripe is that Dina is going to slow her down.
Yes.
And she is fighting between this person that she either likes or loves or whatever and this mission that she's on, and these two things are now
At odds, yeah.
yeah, they weren't before, but now they're in direct opposition to each other. And so she's fighting this frustration, and it told you so much more about Ellie's character. It told you that she
Her
is
priorities
starting.
were out of whack.
Yes,
It told you
exactly.
that was her moment of truth. That was her moment in the game where she should have been like, okay, we should probably go back, because
Right.
you and your unborn child dying is not worth getting revenge on Abby. But she decided to go forward with it anyways. They're
Right.
obviously going about it differently here, and I don't know why yet. And this is what I was kind of talking about earlier, because like they've made changes before, but you don't always know why they made changes, but they kind of become clear later. So my
Mm.
suspicion is that they made this change to precede something else that's coming, to make that land better or make it make more sense. And I
Yeah.
don't know what that is, and I could be wrong, but that's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah.
Or maybe because like they delayed Ellie and Dina having their romantic moment all the way up until this point already. So like they could very well be delaying that moment too, of
Yeah.
her being like, okay, this is getting bad.
Right.
I'm pregnant. This is probably not the best idea. We should go back. And then having her go, no, I can't do it.
Right.
I don't. I don't know if that.
I
I don't know
I
if that
hope
will land
so.
as well. But I hope
No,
there's a
yeah.
reason for it.
I think the only way, and not the only way, that's hyperbolizing.
Yeah.
Not it's not the only way it could work, but the reason why it worked so well for me playing the game
Mm-hmm.
is because it was literally Ellie's first reaction to finding out Dina's pregnant.
Yeah.
It was like,
She's borderline rude. Not even
oh,
borderline.
she's incredibly rude.
She is like, you just became a huge burden.
Yes,
Like, which is not,
absolutely.
and it's the first thing that like threatens their relationship in the game.
Because here's the thing, if it happens later, if they end up having this fight later where Dina's like, oh, like maybe this isn't a good idea for me, and Ellie's like, well, I'm gonna go on and you can go back or whatever, that's more of like a rational decision then.
Yeah.
But if her very first reaction is to
Yeah.
be like, you just fucked everything up, it makes Ellie more of an unlikable character, which I think you're supposed to kind of
Yeah.
feel that way towards her sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
And so
I mean, like,
I really haven't liked how Ellie is kind of, so far this season, has kind of been portrayed as someone that is not on a crazy revenge kick. Like, in the game, she's so unhinged.
yeah.
And I just haven't felt that yet.
I think they need to start amping up the unhingedness of Ellie,
Yeah.
because she is definitely unhinged. And you're right. I mean, like, I can see why that could become a problem. My hope is that this is like one of those things where it's like, for now, they have not given me any reason to not like kind of put my trust in them.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that when it's all said and done, that decision ultimately feels like it was earned, or it makes more sense, or that it was being used to set up something else that's going to be different from the game, and they needed this to kind of go down this way. I will say, in the moment, like, regardless of kind of like what the implications are for the story and the differences, I liked the moment. Like, I liked Ellie's kind of like, it was like this like moment of like happiness amidst all this like violence and death and horror.
Yeah.
I really liked her like, I'm gonna be a dad moment,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
But dude, I saw the funniest Instagram thing, someone reacting to that moment, because like she's like, are you sure? 'Cause she pulls up the pregnancy test, which, by the way, we didn't mention, but earlier she finds something. You don't know it's a pregnancy test, but
right.
you played the game, you kind of picked up on that pretty quick.
Yeah.
She pulls up the pregnancy test and she's like, are you sure? And she's like, and I did this one. And she pulls up like 5 pregnancy tests, and they're all somebody posted a video, they were like watching it, and then she was like, damn girl, you're gonna have 5 babies. I don't know why I fucking lost my shit when I saw that.
That's so funny. That's so funny.
But this moment was very different.
Yeah.
From the game, and it's going to be interesting to see what that is in service of.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I didn't even think about. You pointed out that like the implication of the final scene of this episode seems to be that she's going to go with her, but in the game she stays behind.
Yeah, it seemed because she was like, I gotta go, and like Dina's like, she says we're going, or some, I forget what the line is, but it was a we.
I think,
like, we will
I have to go back
this.
and listen to it, or watch it, but I feel like it's probably they kind of picked up the line I mentioned earlier where she says, if you go, I go. I have a feeling they kind of like lifted that and just moved it into a different spot.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see, because the next episode is when she goes to the hospital and she meets Nora.
Right.
In the game, Dina's nowhere to be found. She's back at the theater. So it'll be interesting to see what having Dina present for those moments ultimately ends up doing.
Yeah, what is that
to the overall story? So overall, though, exciting episode. A lot happened in this episode, I think.
Yeah, I think I definitely liked 3. Let's go into our final thoughts. I liked 3 more than 4, but I still think 4 was a good episode. Especially with the music store scene and all that stuff. So
I think I think episode 3 might, not to the same extent, but I think it might kind of be remembered as kind of like the Billstown episode of this season.
Sure.
It wasn't obviously as just gut-wrenchingly sad as that episode, but like it was the like grounded, character-centric episode with lots of emotion.
I think
lots of
that
kind of
episode for me is going to be the museum if we get the museum this season.
It definitely. I mean, yeah, 'cause the museum has a lot of moments, especially the space capsule thing. So yeah, I know it's coming. I know it's coming this season because we've seen clips of it.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it's in a trailer. It's in one of the trailers, so it's coming. I just don't know if it's going to be like a whole episode because there's not a lot of action to speak of in that episode or in that flashback. But like they could add action, but I almost feel like adding action to that would almost kind of like undercut.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The emotional impact of it. So I kind of hope it's not an entire episode because I don't want them to waste too much time because we're only getting 7 episodes this season. So I don't really want to throw an entire episode at that. But like,
yeah,
I do want it to feel significant. So
yeah, for sure. For sure. A check-in on how I'm feeling about Bella Ramsey. I think episodes 3 and 4 I think were much better than 1 and 2 as far as her performance. Still not sold, but I do think that the change of hair and the change of, you know, wearing like her classic colored t-shirt, you know, I think that looked more like Ellie. Still not perfect, but I'm willing to shrug at it. But yeah, I think she did all right in these couple episodes.
Cool.
I was afraid she was going to be really goofy and silly, but she hasn't been.
I think when she gets down to business, she gets down to business. Like the radio tower scene where she just fucking shanked that guy in the neck.
Yeah.
I felt it. And you know, at this point too, I would die for Dina.
Yeah,
so like,
yeah, she's so good.
I love them on screen together. I think they've got really great chemistry, and the guitar scene. I mean, I feel like she, you know, a lot of people are obviously having conversations about how they feel about Bella Ramsey as Ellie, and some of those are misguided, some of them aren't. I don't know, but like I feel like she's got the acting chops, and she's doing like when the emotions kick in, it's hitting. Like shout out like the scene where she wakes up in the hospital screaming.
Yeah.
Ooh, very impressive.
That was good.
Smelling the jacket and crying, very impressive. So yeah, I don't know. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm excited to see where this goes. I'm a little sad there's only 3 episodes left.
I know.
But man, hey, if anyone out there hasn't played the game and you don't want to wait another year to find out what happens after this, maybe go play it because it's so good.
It's a good game.
It's so good.
I'm also really enjoying Tommy's actor. He's been really good too.
It's so weird. Like I just keep getting hit with like, ugh, like the changes they made to the characters for the show, which I think are all great.
Yeah.
Like the actual like the casting choices. I mean, going in and playing the game and then seeing those characters in the game, and I'm quickly reminded like, oh, this is nothing like when I saw a picture of Joel has a framed picture of Sarah, his daughter, in his house in the game, and I was like, oh yeah. Okay, that's different.
Yeah, Sarah's a little blonde girl.
Yeah, and Maria is obviously totally different in the game. But I was like, I like Maria in the show, but I was kind of like taken aback. I forgot about that. And then just Tommy feels different he feels the same in the show as he does in the game, but like it's just kind of it's weird bouncing back and forth between them and seeing the different actors. But I genuinely appreciate and like all the different versions of these characters. Across the game and the show. It's just really interesting to see the choices they've made across the board. Really cool they brought back Jeffrey Wright for Isaac because
so good.
He's going to be so good.
Last little note in the scenes for next week, a lady says it's in the air. Does that mean that we're getting spores the way we've known them in the game?
That's what I was alluding to earlier. That's
okay.
Tonight is there's even a shot in the trailer of like it's really kind of beautiful like quiet shot of like a infected like leaning against a wall and like breathes and you see like the come out of his mouth, and I was like, oh shit,
Oh man.
And I think I have a feeling they're going to kind of like tie this into because they introduced the Stalkers in episode 1, and they were
Yeah.
talking about how they're kind of changing, they're evolving, and
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they're going to kind of tie all this together. It's like over time things are getting more complicated.
Right.
So
Interesting.
that's one of the things people have been like because in the game they don't have the hive mind thing, and
Right.
so it's always just been spores in the air. So adding this on top of that is an interesting layer.
Yeah.
So I'll be really interested to see where they go.
It's really cool. All right. Well, I know that you have a movie to get to.
I do.
So we'll wrap up here. But thank you so much for hanging out today and talking some Last of Us. It's always a good time.
Yep.
And yeah, we'll do episodes 5 and 6 next, and then we'll have one more episode of this podcast show to do for episode 7.
I guess that would be, we would do that after episode 7. We'll talk about like the whole season, you mean? Or kind of talk about the finale?
So we'll have to figure out, maybe we do a live stream like Monday night, the night after the episode, so it's still like fresh for everybody. That might be a good way to do it. I don't know. We can figure it out and
we have
play
options.
with it.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, especially with doing it as a live stream and it's not something that I have to like edit. I think that makes it a lot easier. And I'm kind of wondering, I'm like, do I just do live streams for all of the for all the Fantasy Files Reacts content? I'm like, that might be a good way to so I don't have to do as much editing. It might be nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll figure it out and we'll get it nailed down and everything. But yeah, good. Thank you so much for hanging out today. Say hello to your mom for me for Mother's Day.
You got it.
She'll be like, who the hell is Spencer?
Who is this?
But all right, guys. Well, we are going to wrap it up there. As you know, we just said, you can look forward to some Last of Us content coming up for episodes 5 and 6, and then of course the finale, and then we'll have Dexter in July. I don't know if we'll have any more Reacts content in between those things, unless there's another big show that's kind of coming out in the meantime. There might be a little break in the Reacts content, but of course we'll be back for Dexter. And what else? There's more content coming out for the main podcast. I've finally gotten to a place, I had told you guys a few weeks ago in a video that I was so busy I just haven't had time to edit anything, and that busy time is thankfully coming to a close, so I can start editing again. I got an episode out this last week, so go check that out. That's a Dungeon Crawler Carl episode.
My wife is obsessed with Dungeon Crawler
dude,
Carl.
It's so good. Please read it. I was gonna suggest it to you, dude. Hey, hang on a second. Pause the outro. I thought people were fucking with me. I thought people were like, oh, you gotta read this book. It's so funny. It's so good. And like, I read the premise. I'm like, this sounds like shit. Like, what is this? And finally, it like blew up on my side of YouTube, on the book side of YouTube. People I really, really respect were talking about this book. And I was like, what is going on with this thing? So I asked the other co-hosts, I was like, hey, let's all just like read the first book. It'll get views on YouTube because it's super viral right now. And we'll just check it out and see what's going on. And, keep in mind, I've read hundreds of fantasy books.
Yeah.
I read the first one expecting to hate it. I literally put out a video saying I wanted to hate this book. And I read the first one, and within, I think, 2 weeks from there, I was already on book 5.
Yep.
And I was just like burning through them. And then I just finished this last week or so. I finished books 6 and 7. And there's still more to come.
I think my wife's on book 5 right now.
It is book 5 is the best in the series. Book 5 is like by far the best book. Nick, it is so fucking good. And you have to do the audiobook.
That's what she's been That's what she's been listening to, and I've caught pieces of it here and there. Yeah,
it's so fucking funny.
She'll be happy to hear that you dig it. So
yeah, tell her I said mana toast and see if she laughs.
I'm sure she will.
Or tell her. No, you shouldn't tell her. Say something. Find a way to mention the daddy tax. She'll know what the daddy tax is. But anyways, please read that, Nick. But yeah, we're gonna wrap it up there, guys. Dungeon Crawler Carl stuff. More of that is coming soon. More episodes are coming soon, so keep an eye out for that. But we are going to get out of here. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. And until next time, remember that on Mother's Day, every mother is a MILF. Okay, bye, guys.
What the fuck? That was an unhinged way to end that episode.